Hey guys, it's Brett. Thanks for dropping by my channel. Today I am coming to you from La Quinta, California, the desert. I am here this weekend for the holiday weekend. So can't even tell you how glorious it is to see blue skies and sunshine after all of the endless rain that we've been getting in California. This is just spectacular and amazing. So today I was away last week, so I didn't get around to doing my March wrap up of what I read. I read 10 books, all really interesting. Some I've responded to more than others, as we all do. So let's not waste any time and get right into it. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do was talk about what I'm currently reading. The first book is Collected Works by Lydia Sandgren. This is one of my most anticipated, A, of the year, and B, certainly of the month when I had pulled my books together to read. So it's been a mixed bag for me, to be perfectly honest. It's been a little bit of a slog. I think the book is good. However, it's very measured. It's very paced. It's about a man named Martinberg, who is a publisher and also a writer, and his best friend Gustav, who's an artist. The book goes back and forth in time from when they first met and when he met this woman named Cecilia, who became his wife, and then who eventually disappears. In the present day, Martin and Cecilia had 2 kids. Their daughter is grown and their son is high school. And the kids begin to figure out or determine what actually happened to their mom and where she disappeared to. I'm not going to give it up. I'm almost halfway through it. I just don't feel this pressing need to be in it all the time, and that's kind of a bummer. But it's extremely well written. It's very engaging. There's parts of it that remind me a little bit of a John Irving novel, and totally it could be my mood right now, but I'm just not as drawn to it as I would like to be. Similarly, I started this book on audio, which again, I thought I would just love because of the premise, The Other Mother by Rachel Harper. So here's the story with this. I started this on audio. This is a very intricately involved story about a young man who's college age who goes to a university to see his grandfather, who he just found out about. He has been raised by a single mother who he's been told his father died when he was very young. But he goes to speak to his grandfather, which is his deceased father's father, to say, I'd like to know more about my dad. To which his grandfather responds, your dad, you really need to know more about your other mom, which is completely baffling to this kid. Well, it turns out his father was nothing more than the brother and sperm donor to his sister's girlfriend. Does that all make sense? So it was a lesbian couple who one of them used their brother to be a sperm donor and to get the other woman pregnant. But the lesbian couple broke up when the child was little, so he never knew this other mother. So as the book progresses, the chapters, each kind of section or chapter section involves one of the players in the story, and truths begin to get revealed as it goes through. Okay, sounds amazing. Like, I heard the premise, I was like, oh, that sounds fantastic. I'm gonna blame my problem with this book on the audio reading, but it's kind of like when you go to look at a house, and if you're ever just go to look at a property and look at what a house looks like, and you'll hear people say, this house has great bones. And I'd say, this house has great bones. I just don't love all the decorating. Some of the dialogue to me, it's been in hearing it, sounds so melodramatic that I feel like I'm at times listening to a movie of the week, which is why I've switched to print simply and just reading it that way. And it's kind of lessened that. But I think the reader has kind of leaned into this kind of, and full stop, some of it reads melodramatic. So again, enjoying this ish, but not loving. We'll see where I end up. I'm a little over halfway. I hope to finish this tomorrow. So, all right. So those are the two books that I've spent too much time on that I'm reading right now. So let's recap my month. I think when I was last on here, I talked about I was in a big reading group reading the Luminaries. This is my final take on the Luminaries at this monster book. I thought it was, Booker Prize winner. She was very young when she won this. It's an incredibly constructed book. I likened this to Hernan Diaz's Trust, which for me was more about the technical prowess of the book than actual content. Trust left me very, very cold. This didn't leave me cold. I just, it's a very involved story with a large cast of characters that I had to literally keep a list of to figure out and keep track of who is who. Eleanor Catton uses the cycle of the moon and astrological signs tie into the book in a much more in-depth way than, to be perfectly honest, I really cared about. And I felt that while I was never bored, and part of that was due because I was reading it in sections with a large group of people, I did find, I almost wish I would have just ditched that and just sped through to the end, because in reading small chunks, it was harder to keep focused and keep everybody straight. So I'm really, really glad I read it. I'm glad I read it with a group so we can all discuss it. But I didn't put it down and be like, wow, that was a masterpiece, and I'm so glad that I read that and I would recommend this to a lot of people. No to all of that. I would recommend it to people who are up for a challenge, who aren't afraid of a big book. That's how I felt. Okay, there you go. The Consequences by Manuel Munoz. This came to my attention because it's one of the finalists for the Aspen Words Literary Prize. It's beautiful. It is a series of short stories that all are around a group of immigrants, some legal, some not, in Fresno, California. Beautiful writer. There's a number of stories in here that are so fantastic. I cannot recommend this enough. If it won the Aspen Words Prize, I think that would be great. Great, 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 great book. Biography of X. In fact, in my last video, I think I was reading this by Catherine Lacey. I hadn't gotten that far into it. This is a fascinating read. It's a fictionalized biography of a multi-hyphenate artist named X, written by her lover, her wife, and the premise of the book is kind of set up that there had been a biography written of X that her wife felt didn't really tell the true story of who she was and didn't feel that this writer captured it. So she sets out to write the true story of X, and in the process uncovers a lot more about her wife than even she knew. It's a really fascinating character study. It's a kind of reimagined United States, with the United States having been separated into northern and southern territories, with the southern territories being very akin to Margaret Atwood's Handmaid's Tale, kind of a religious-led authoritarian rule, very religious. And the walls eventually come down, and the states are united again. But it informs a lot. There are a lot of real life players who are in this. such as David Bowie, just a bunch of, artists, musicians, all who come into play. So when you're reading it, I said it's one of the most fascinating reads about somebody who actually never existed, complete with, I'll show you, photographs. X herself was almost a shapeshifter in terms of how she reinvented herself and the way she presented herself to different people and the persona that she took on. So really, really, really interesting and cool book. Open Throat by Henry Hoke. This was another one of my more anticipated reads of the year. This is coming out in June from MCD FSG Books, and thank you for this copy. The premise of this, as they pitched it, was a gay mountain lion living in the Hollywood Hills, all of which is true. However, the gay mountain lion part, it's almost not even necessary. First of all, it's such a passed on moment that had I not read that blurb, I don't know that it would have resonated with me that, oh, that's a gay mountain lion. It's just a mountain lion. So there's another book that is on the Aspen Awards shortlist called What We Fed to the Manticore, which are a series of short stories which are fantastic that are all about different animals and takes the point of view of the different animals, everything from climate change to being captured. There's a bunch of different subjects. This felt like it could easily have been one of those stories, everything from the mountain lion's point of view. It's really cool. It's a slip of a novel, and frankly, when you see how the text is written out, when I first opened it, I was like, oh my God, is this in verse? And it's not. It's just how it's been laid out. So I thought it was good. It didn't blow me away, but it was really inventive. It's moving, and it's worth a pickup. Absolutely worth a pickup. Hello Beautiful by Napolitano. This, of course, is Oprah's 100th book from her book club. This is a loose kind of retelling or inspired by Little Women. It's about 4 sisters growing up in Chicago. I loved this so much. It really surprised me how much I loved this, and I alternated between the book and the audio book, which is read by the great actress Maura Tierney from ER fame, as well as a host of other things. I thought she did a great job. It was so good, so immediately engaging, a fantastic study of these wonderful women and this man, William, who becomes involved in all their lives as the husband to one of the sisters. It's really fantastic. It will flush your tear ducts. I am giving you the warning now. I boohooed quite a few times reading this, but just a really, 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 really great book about families, about the complications that involve with families, about dreams deferred. It's great. It's great. I dipped back my romance toe into The Sapphire Storm, which is the 3rd book by C. Travis Wright, also known as Christopher Rice, his Sapphire series, which basically, as I've said before, are kind of like the White Lotus of romance novels, except instead of dying, you get laid. So totally enjoyed this. It's a May-December romance. These are male-for-male romances. And if those are your thing, check out this series. Totally fun. Christopher Bollen's The Lost Americans. I loved this book. First book I'd ever read by Christopher Bollen was Beautiful Crime, which I thought was fantastic. That was set in Venice. This one is set in Egypt, in Cairo. And it is about an American who works for a weapons contractor in Egypt, who his family gets a call that he has committed suicide. He has jumped from the balcony of his hotel. His sister is adamant that she thinks this is bullshit, that he would never do this, that he had so much to live for. So against her family's wishes, she sets out to go to Egypt to try to determine and figure out if she can find out what actually happened. In the meantime, she's set up by a friend of the family with a guide who is an Egyptian man who is gay, who is in a very secret relationship because of the laws in that country, and is looking for a way out. And it's what happens. It's really good, has some very by the book thriller elements to it, but is really smart and has an ending I never saw coming, which I thought was really fantastic. So would highly recommend. Tweakerworld by Jason Yamas. Jason is a writer and an actor who, for a very brief time, was a drug dealer who dealt crystal meth in San Francisco and became a huge dealer. This is his story. It is, well, first of all, he's hilarious, and this would probably be really funny on audio because he reads the audio as well. I say it's funny because he's very tongue-in-cheek. He is able to laugh at his experiences, but to tell you that these experiences are horrific would be an understatement. I read a lot of this with my jaw on the floor at the circumstances he found himself in. You just think you know things and you just don't. And you think you know how people could live their lives and the things they do, and then you get into something like this and you're like, y'all, I am sheltered. Anyway, if you want to have your eyes opened, your horizons broadened, and your pearls clutched, get Tweakerworld. Okay, another book that I think I had talked about before, which a monster, almost 900 pages. Yes, I went on about this, The Deluge. I finally finished this. In fact, this weekend, the group that I was reading this with, we're gonna have a Zoom to talk about it. I thought this was amazing. I think everyone should read this. As I said before, it involves the most pressing issue facing us right now as a world, which is climate change. And this, the inevitability about what is happening. I mean, you're watching just this week the amount of tornadoes in the South and Southeast. It's real. It's all real, and it's all happening. And I thought he did a really exceptional job of laying this out while creating a group of characters who are so multifaceted, the kind of characters that you hate sometimes and you come back to them and then you grow to love them as they evolve. It's really fascinating about climate change, about the political gridlock, and where it's all headed. And so much of what he's touching on in this book is already happening and continuing to evolve. So again, would highly recommend the audio, which was a little challenging at first, but once you keyed into who all these characters were. It's done with a full cast, and it's great. And I'm gonna put it down now because it's killing my hand. Last was probably my favorite book of the month and in contention for me for favorite book of the year so far, which is In Memoriam by Alice Winn. And thank you from Knopf for this beautiful finished copy. It's so weird, in 3 months, we've had 2 books come out already so far about gay relationships in World War I. The first was The World and All That It Holds, which I loved as well. But this, to me, was so incredibly beautiful. Alice Winn, this is her debut novel. So it's about 2 young men at a boarding school in London, who, one of which enlists in the war. They find themselves at school falling in love with each other, although nothing has ever happened between them. They're very much aware that this attraction exists. And they both have their own kind of separate stories that precede the main event, which is the war. The one of the 2, whose name is Gaunt, who is half German, he decides to enlist. The other boy, because they're boys, is named Elwood. And when Gaunt enlists, Elwood knows he has to follow him to the front lines because he can't imagine not seeing him again and not knowing what happens to him. And so the 2 of them end up in the front line together, and what happens? It is so beautiful. It's violent. It is the horrors of war laid bare. But it is also so devastatingly gorgeous. And the journey that these 2 go on is so incredible. I can't believe this is her first book. It feels like an instant classic. It feels like something that could have been written 100 years ago. I'm so excited as award seasons continue to play out. I feel like you're gonna hear about this book again, and you should, because it's truly a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful novel. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. I'm leaving you with that, my favorite of the month, In Memoriam. So that's it. I'm going to be back in a few days, maybe tomorrow, if time permits, to put a video up about what I'm hoping. Well, actually, it won't. It's not going to be till next week. I lied. It's not going to be till next week because I don't have all the other books with me, of what I'm planning to read or trying to get to, or would like to read, or would hope to read in April, which we're well into. So it's all going so fast, you guys, so fast, so fast, so fast. So, all right. Hope you all have a great day wherever you are, or evening if it's evening for you. Thanks again for stopping by. If you like what you've seen, please like and subscribe below. Tell all your friends, and I will see you all soon. Thanks.